Hello everyone, welcome to the leave configuration training video. Let us begin by understanding the process flow. You initiate this process by accessing the leave configuration screen, where a new record can be created. You must complete all required fields, and once this information is entered, the record needs to be saved. This completes the setup. You must ensure that the organization setup and leave components are defined in the component definition screen. To follow the steps for configuration, you will navigate to the HR Management folder. From there, go to Leave Management and click on the Leave Configuration. Next, click on the new record. You will then enter the organization, leave name, category, start date, and other mandatory fields to complete the configuration. Finally, save the record. Now, let us switch to the system and walk through each step to understand the configuration in action. The configuration process begins at the login screen. You will enter your username and password, and then click on the Login button. Upon successful login, the home screen will appear. This screen includes some default widgets and charts. To access the Leave Configuration screen, navigate to HR Management, then to Leave Management, and finally to Leave Configuration. This screen defines how different types of leave behave for employees within your organization. Here, you will assign accrual plans, define eligibility categories, and set up how each leave type is calculated or limited. Let us now walk through each field. The first field is Organization. You will select the organization for which this leave rule will apply. This selection ensures the configuration is specific to that business unit. If the leave type is applicable to all organizations, select star from the drop-down. In cases where your system has multiple organizations, you can define organization-specific leave rules by selecting the appropriate one from the list. This ensures the configuration applies only where it is intended. The second field is Leave Type. This is a string field where you enter the name of the leave type, for example, annual leave, sick leave, or maternity leave. This name will be displayed and used when an employee applies for leave, so ensure the name is clearly defined and easy to identify. In this example, type the leave name as annual leave. Regarding the category field, you must specify whether this leave is considered paid or unpaid. This directly affects payroll processing and leave balance treatment. For this leave type, select paid. Next, the accrual plan field is a list of values with options yes or no. If you select yes, an additional tab, also called Accrual Plan, will be enabled. In that tab, you can configure detailed rules such as accrual frequency, monthly limits, and carry forward. For the accrual plan, select yes. For the Allow Leave Overlap field, you will select yes or no, depending on whether overlapping leave requests are allowed. If yes is selected, a new field named Overlapping Exception will appear, which allows you to define exception rules, such as permitting overlap only for certain leave types. Here, you will select yes to allow overlapping leaves. Next, the Units field defines the unit in which leave is tracked, for example days or hours. In this example, you will select days as the unit. For the Start Date and End Date fields, you will specify the date range during which this leave configuration will be applicable. The start date refers to when this leave rule begins taking effect. The end date is optional and is used when the leave type has a validity cutoff. Enter the start date as January 1, 2000. You may leave the end date blank if it is open-ended. The associated component name field links the leave to a payroll or attendance component, such as Annual Leave Accrual, which was created earlier in the component definition window. You must ensure that all necessary leave components are created beforehand, as otherwise, this association will not be possible. Select Annual Leave as the associated component. For the Input Value field, this drop-down automatically populates based on the component selected in the previous field. For example, if the component tracks leave in days, the input value might be days. From the drop-down, select Annual Leave Days as the input value. Next, for the Formula field, you will select a predefined formula if there is a specific calculation logic required for this leave type, such as proration or tenure-based entitlement. You must ensure the formula is already defined in the system before selecting it here. In this example, we are not applying any formula, so you may leave it blank or select as per your rule. Let us now cover the checkboxes and their functions. The first checkbox is half-day applicable. You will enable this option to allow employees to apply for half-day leaves. Therefore, enable this checkbox as true so that users can book half-day leaves for annual leave. Next is the negative leave allowed checkbox. You will enable this checkbox if you want to allow a leave application even when the employee has an insufficient balance. This will result in a negative leave balance. You can enable this based on policy. For this example, leave it unchecked. Next is the exclude holiday or week off checkbox. When this checkbox is enabled, any system-defined holidays or weekly offs will be automatically excluded from the total leave duration. This option is optional and based on your leave policy, and you can enable it if needed. Next is the carried over checkbox. This checkbox defines whether an unused leave balance can be carried over to the next year. If this option is enabled, any leftover balance from the current year will be added to the next year's entitlement. This is commonly used for leave types such as annual leave or earned leave, where leave is allowed to accumulate. Mark this checkbox as true so that any remaining annual leave balance will be carried forward to the next year's entitlement. Once all the required fields and options are filled according to policy, you will click on the Save button to apply the configuration. Next, we will move to the Leave Reason tab. This tab defines specific reasons for the selected leave type, such as vacation, personal, or urgent work. Employees can select these reasons later when applying for leave. Regarding the fields in the Leave Reason tab, the leave type field is automatically populated based on the leave type selected in the header, so you do not need to select it again. In the Name field, you can manually enter different leave reasons to categorize or track leave requests more accurately. Let us now add a few sample records. The Leave Type field will already be filled based on your header. In the Name field, you will type Vacation and then click Save. To add another reason, click on New Record, enter the name Urgent Work, and then save again. You can repeat this process to add as many leave reasons as required for reporting or classification purposes. Next, we will cover the Overlapping Exception tab. This tab defines exceptions where overlapping leave is allowed. For example, an employee might already be on one type of leave and need to apply for another type within the same period. Regarding the fields in the Overlapping Exception tab, the Leave Type field is automatically populated based on the leave type selected in the header. You do not need to select it again. In the Exception Leave field, you can select another leave type from the drop-down that is allowed to overlap with the current one. Only those leave types that have already been configured on the Header tab will be available in the drop-down. Let us take an example. The leave type will already be filled with annual leave from the header. In the Exception Leave drop-down, select Medical Leave. Then, click Save to create the record. This means if an employee is on annual leave and falls sick, they can book medical leave during the same period, effectively overlapping the two leaves. Next, we will cover the Accrual Plan tab. This tab defines the detailed rules for how leave will be accrued over time, based on company policies and leave type. Let us now look at the fields in the Accrual Plan tab. The Leave Type field is automatically populated based on the leave type selected in the header, so you do not need to select it again. The accrual type is a list of values with options like daily, hourly, monthly, or none. The selection depends on your organization's policy for how frequently the leave should accumulate. As per standard practice, we will select None here, which indicates no automated accrual frequency is required. In the Component Type field, you will select the accrual component associated with the leave type. This component should already be defined in the Component Definition window. Here, we will select Annual Leave Accrual as the component. The Accrual Formula field is for custom calculation logic. If such logic for accrual, for example, based on working days or tenure, is required, it should be written and predefined in the system. You can select the appropriate formula from the drop-down if one is available. The accrual plan name is simply a reporting name for the plan, used for identification purposes in reports or lookups. Here, we will define the name as Annual Leave Accrual Plan. Once all fields are filled, you will click on Save to complete the accrual plan setup. Next, we have the Accrual Band tab, which is part of the accrual plan configuration. Let us now look at how this works. This tab allows you to define tiered or differentiated leave entitlements based on various criteria, such as employee type, grade, gender, or job position, as per the organization's policy. Let us now cover the fields in the Accrual Band tab. The Accrual Plan Name field is automatically populated from the previous tab. It displays the accrual plan you just created, for example, Annual Leave Accrual Plan. The accrual criteria is a list of values field that lets you define to whom the entitlement applies. You can configure leave bands based on the following. There are several criteria you can use for accrual criteria. One option is applicable to all. If the entitlement is the same for all employees regardless of type, grade, or position, you will select this option. In this example, for annual leave, we already defined a global entitlement of 25 days, so we will select Applicable to All and leave the value field blank. Another option is to base it on employee type. This is used when entitlements differ for permanent, contract, part-time, or interns. Alternatively, you can base it on grade, which enables the grade field for grade-specific entitlement. It can also be based on gender, which enables the gender field for male or female-based entitlement. Finally, you can base it on job or position, which enables the selection of specific jobs or positions for entitlement. It is important to remember that only one accrual criterion can be selected at a time. The value field is used to enter the number of days, which is the entitlement, for the selected group. In our case, we leave this blank because the entitlement is already defined globally. The maximum carryover field defines how many unused leave days can be carried forward to the next year. This is required when the carried over checkbox is enabled in leave configuration. The system refers to this field during the carryover process. For this setup, we will enter 5 as the maximum carryover value, which means a maximum of 5 unused annual leave days can be carried forward to the next year. After completing these steps, you will save the record. The system follows a specific priority when determining entitlement. When determining entitlement, the system follows this priority. The accrual band takes precedence if it is defined for the employee group. If no band is defined, the system falls back to the global value. You should define entitlement in the band only if differentiation is required. Otherwise, use the global value. Next, we will cover the net calculation rule under the Accrual Plan tab. This section helps define how each leave component affects the total net leave balance. It clarifies whether a component reduces available leave, which means it utilizes it, or increases available leave, which means it entitles it. Let us now look at the fields in the net calculation rule. The Accrual Plan Name field is automatically populated from the Accrual Plan tab. For example, it will display Annual Leave Accrual Plan. For the Component Type field, you will select the leave component that has an impact on the selected accrual plan. For this case, select the component as Annual Leave. The Input Value field defines the unit in which the leave will be processed, typically days or hours. As a standard, we will select days. The Effect on Net field determines how the selected component will affect the net entitlement. If you choose Utilized, it means the leave will be deducted from the total entitlement when taken by the employee. If you choose Entitlement, it means the leave will be added to the total balance, similar to a carry forward or bonus leave. Let us now cover example scenarios. In Scenario 1, the component type will be Annual Leave, and the input value will be days. The effect on net will be utilized. This means when employees take annual leave, the balance will reduce from their total entitlement. Once all required details are entered, click on the Save button to complete the net calculation rule setup for the accrual plan. After completing the previous configuration, let's move to the next scenario. In this scenario, we will configure an accrual plan for medical leave. Since the medical leave type is already created in the system, we will directly move to its accrual setup. For step 1, the Accrual Plan tab, navigate to the Leave Configuration screen and open the medical leave record. Go to the Accrual Plan tab. You will fill out the accrual type field by selecting None, as we are not using a time-based accrual like monthly or hourly. For the component type, select Medical Leave Accrual. This component should be defined already in the Component Definition window. For accrual formula, leave it blank or select an existing formula if one is configured. In the Accrual Plan name field, type Medical Leave Accrual Plan. Click Save to move forward. Next, we will cover Step 2, the Accrual Band tab. Now let us define the entitlement using an accrual band. The Accrual Plan name field will be auto-filled. For accrual criteria, select Applicable to All. For the value, enter 12. This means 12 days of medical leave will be granted to each employee per year. For maximum carryover, enter 0. As per policy, medical leave will not be carried forward to the next year. Click Save after entering the values. Next, we will cover Step 3, the Net Calculation Rule. You will go to the Net Calculation Rule section to define how this leave affects the balance. For component type, select Medical Leave. For input value, select Days. For the effect on net, select Utilized. This selection ensures that when employees take medical leave, it gets deducted from their entitlement. Click Save to complete the configuration. That concludes the training on leave configuration setup. Thank you for attending.